Hello and welcome to EE 233. I'm your instructor, Gregory Myers. In this video, we're going to go through how to set up our Netbeans environment to do our C development work for EE 233. And particularly, we're going to do this on a Windows 10 64-bit computer. So to begin with, this video assumes two things. First, that you have downloaded these files from, in this case, our Canvas page or from the internet. Please note that you don't have to worry too much about these minor versions, in other words, the .6 and the 301, but instead what we want to do is focus on the fact that we're installing any of the 12 series Netbeans and the 8 series JDK. In addition, you should have also downloaded a copy of the mingw.zip file that I have provided, in this case, once again, on our Canvas page. So the second thing that it assumes is that you've created a new folder in your local disk called software. So what we're going to do is we're going to install all of this stuff into the same folder just for convenience sake. Also note that this folder does not have a space in the name, and that's just going to help us out then in the future. So to begin with, what we want to do is actually start by installing the JDK. You're going to be prompted a couple of times for your admin password potentially. And what we want to do is carefully go through the installer, making sure that we have the path pointing to that software folder. And so in this case, what we want to do is we want to change the path from C program files to C software. And the other thing we want to note here, and we'll use this later on, is the version. So in this case, it's going to be 1.0.0_301. Don't worry too much about that if your minor version is different. And I'm just going to open up an instance of Notepad and paste that number in for us to remember and use later. So you go ahead and click OK. This will install not only a version of the JDK, but also the version of the JRE that we will be using for our Netbeans development. You'll notice here that we're once again prompted to change the destination folder. However, this time it's not quite as elegant, so we're actually going to have to select the path using this little wizard. But notice that we have no way to create or select rather the JRE path. And so in this case, what we want to do is make a new folder, starting off with JRE, and then that version that we had copied earlier. So in this case, it's going to be JRE 1.8.0_301. Now, once again, this video will be can work for other versions as well. Click OK, and you'll see now that the installation path is C software Java JRE. Click Next. And then click Close. Now we can move on to the Netbeans install. Once again, in this case, I'm installing 12.6. Once again, you may be prompted for your admin credentials. And then when you're prompted for the path, we want to very carefully go ahead and change it also to C software. Now, you can customize your installation of Netbeans, but in this case, this is a pretty stripped down version, but you can deselect options. Particularly, we're going to use this for C, but we can also use this for Java, for instance. All right, select Next, agree to the EULA, and then here, once again, we want to be careful in changing our installation path to C software, and then we can use the Browse button to select then our version of the JDK. So we go to C software, Java, and then there is our JDK that we installed just a little while ago. Click OK. And then it will use that version of the JDK instead of the one that it is bundled with. Now, you can optionally choose to check for updates. This just means occasionally it will check for updates when it's first launching. In other words, you need to have an internet connection and it may cause a slight delay. I'll leave that up to you to check. I'll show you also how to manually check, but go ahead and hit install. And while this is installing, we can go ahead and do a third step, or start the third step, and that is go ahead and unzip the mingw.zip. Now, just in case you don't see the .zip file extension, you want to go to View and make sure that you have selected file name extensions and then optionally hidden files, as well as showing the details. At this point, I just simply want to right-click and extract all. And I am once again going to change my path to C software, and then it's going to dump the contents of that zip file into the mingw directory. Be careful, make sure to include the slashes, and then hit extract. And this will take just a few minutes. So we're just going to slide this over to the side. And by this time, your NetBeans install should be pretty close to finished. At this point, you should have an icon on your desktop that says NetBeans, or you can simply hit the Windows key and type in NetBeans. And we've got a few additional steps that we need to go through to make sure that we're ready to do C development in our NetBeans environment. It's up to you if you want to provide the anonymous usage data. I usually do, just to help developers of this IDE itself. And now what we want to do is we want to go to Tools, and we want to go to Options and verify that you have the C and C++ option. And then after a brief delay, you should see these two paths or options for the C CLS configuration. Now, we're not going to do it this way, but just make sure that you can, in fact, get to this step. Click OK. And now we want to go back up to Tools. And we want to go to Plugins. And here is once again a place for you to check for updates. But what we want to do first is we want to go over to Settings. And you should see the NetBeans 8.2 plugin portal. And you want to make sure that that option is checked, because that's going to allow for us to download and install the C and C++ plugin. Once you've done that, you can go over to the updates and check for updates once again. And under the available plugins, you should now see the C and C++ certified plugin. Basically, it's available for the older versions of NetBeans as well as the 12.6 if we install it the way that we're doing in this video. At this point, go ahead and hit Install, select Next, accept the EULA, and hit Install. And at this point, if we're lucky, our mingw extractor is finished. And now in your C software folder, you should have a Java subfolder, mingw, and our NetBeans 12.6. Coming back to the NetBeans, you're going to get prompted then for verifying a certificate. You can go ahead and hit Continue. And then make sure that you have success. In this case, we do, so we can click Finish. Go ahead and select Close. And then now if we go back up here to Tools, under our Options, our C and C++ tab should look a little bit different than it did earlier. Now what it is doing is it is prompting us for our mingw installation path. And this is once again why it was so important to follow the paths that I've recommended, so that we have everything nice and neatly located in one location. And then what you want to do now is you want to select Add. And using the Browse button, you simply go and find on your local disk, your software folder, mingw, and you select the bin folder. And if you've been successful in extracting MingW, you should now see a new tool collection name. In other words, this is our compiler that we're going to be using. You click OK. And basically, it discovers the rest of the tools it needs in the MingW folder. At this point, we're done. And so we can hit Apply, hit OK. And just as a quick test, we can simply come up here to New, Project, go to C and C++. We want to select C and C++ application, select Next. And I'm just going to call this one Demo. We can go ahead and leave Create Main File alone, but change the C++ to C, and then hit Finish. And then under the source files, we should see a main.c in our demo project. Now, I'll pick up from here with another video about how you can go through building your first C application and running it from the command line. But this video is probably long enough already. So as always, with any of my videos, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to ask me. And thank you for watching.